This conference will now be recorded.
Are you able to see my screen, everyone? Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
So yesterday we have discussed about testing, what is verification and validation, how the concept of verification and validation happens at an industry level, and we discussed about SDLC. Basically, SDLC is all about ideation, requirements, designing, development, testing and brainstorming, deployment and maintenance. Then we also discussed about the waterfall model and V model. We also discussed about waterfall model and V model, everyone. So can anyone say what is the concept of waterfall model that we have discussed yesterday? Hmm? I'm asking you, can anyone explain about the waterfall model that we have discussed yesterday? Can anyone explain about the waterfall model that we have discussed yesterday? Waterfall testing methodology.
Yes, Rahul. So, waterfall methodology is a step-by-step procedure where we collect requirements gathering first, and then we do design and development, and then we do the testing, and then deployment and maintenance. So deployment and maintenance is not covered in verification and validation process. So this is the extra process that we do in waterfall methodology. So waterfall methodology is not very popularly used, but it is used in few of the companies in the startup companies, like in few projects where they are developing a project and based on the client requirement as well.
Mhm. Nice, nice, nice. That's good to hear. So hope now today, without wasting much of our time, let's jump into the phases that a SDLC generally undergoes. Generally, who are involved? At what phase do the training and the document? At what phases do we need the documentation and training part, etc., etc. So basically, the first phase during an SDLC is the formation. In this formation concept, what is that? Project initiation. So we'll be having the rough estimates of the project, rough estimates, rough timelines of the project that we are developing. So in the phase two, that is requirements and planning. So in the requirements definition, we chart down the project management plan, we chart down the functional requirements, technical requirements, we review the requirements, and we prepare the SOWs. Hope everyone knows what is SOW, right?
No, Rahul, can you please
So
explain?
SOW means statement of work. As per the SOW means, you have seen, right, as per the requirements definition. We go through all these requirements, we review the requirements and get the approval. Once we get the approval for all the requirements, then we send a document to the customer stating that this is SOW. As per the SOW, these are the agreed terms and conditions. So if you are okay with it, then we'll go with it. Go ahead with that. Like it's like a formal approval, you can say SOWs. In that they'll mention what are the departments that are involved: BAs, deployment, developers, testing. And if you are providing automation, test automation as add-on, then we are providing the charges for test automation or performance testing or whatever it is. It'll be explained everything, and milestones and the deliverables. At what time are we supposed to deliver, etc. Clear? And if the project gets delayed, what is the penalty that we are going to be paid for the company? Yes or no?
Okay, yes.
Hmm. Now, the coming to the other phase, that is phase three, is design. In design, what it comes, the internal external design reviews, and detailed project development. So design basically comes from more of a development perspective, how the project should look like. Kamal, you have a doubt? Kamal.
Yes,
So
Rahul.
you have a doubt, you switched on your mic.
I'm facing some network issue. That's why.
No, no, please. So when it comes to design phase, we always design about how the application should look like, how the application should be built, what is the software required, what is the hardware required. In this architecture and infra design, how the application works, and we develop the project completely based on that. So once the designing part, that means how the look and feel of the application, the mock UIs, the architecture of the application, and the detailed project coding plan. Like once a code is built, how do we ensure that the KTs are being transferred from one person to another person? How the documentation should be happening according to the code, particular code. All these things will happen in the phase 3, that is design. Phase 4, construct. So simply they won't some modules what will happen is they simply don't construct the module completely. Sometimes what they do is they design a prototype. What is a prototype testing? What is prototype methodology? I'll explain you later in this session only. So basically what happens, the prototype is just a mock working of the application. So basically what happens for some modules, they will not write the code for the complete module. Sometimes what they do, they design the prototypes and they ensure the code review is happening, because in the design phase there are a lot of discussions happening, right? How the design should come, what is the architecture in this new architecture, whether the application is working properly or not. All these things will be there, right? So in order to check those things, that simply sometimes what companies do is they design a prototype and they review the code accordingly as per the standards given. So in the phase 5, that is testing, when it comes to testing, we have to test the complete product and we have to give a test summary report. So what do you mean by test summary report? It contains of how many cases passed, failed, skipped, what are the bugs, which are the critical bugs that we need to make a mention of it. Okay. And product release. Product release means yesterday we have discussed about deployment, right? That is called as product release. Acceptance, operational acceptance, or acceptance document, that we are releasing a product to the customer via deployment. So for every release that you make, you will have obviously have a document related to it, that you are accepting this release. We are undergoing this release. Will be sharing some release notes and artifacts. Release notes and artifacts means what are the modules that I'm going to share, what are the bugs that I have fixed in case any. Okay. And last, post implementation. You have heard this concept in IT companies like project support, post prod support. Have you guys heard this terminology if you are working
Yes.
prod support? So what is prod support means? The application is went live. After going to live, the job of the prod support is to check whether the application is working properly. If there are any bugs, just check whether the bugs are there or not, and we have to ask the developers to fix it and enhance them. Or any change request comes, we have to just monitor. Basically the job of a prod support team is to monitor the application and be receptive to any kind of changes. Clear? Clear?
Yes,
For
Rahul.
every
Yes.
for every once the project goes live, and if there is any change that you need to do, you have to share a control log. Like what was the root cause analysis? There is a concept called as root cause analysis. So there some people say as change control log, or some people say as root cause analysis document. So what happens in that means you have to explain them what are the different activities that you've undergone to fix this bug, or uh, uh, to create this CR in your application. So these kind of details also needs to be mentioned to the customer once the project goes live. Clear?
So
Yes,
Rahul, this
ma'am.
change control log is filled in by the client during the release or after the release, or who or the
After the application is gone live, you might
Mhm.
be finding some bugs or defects post go live. Yes or no, straight away.
Correct.
So what happens means they will be asking for a complete root cause document or root cause analysis of why this bug has come, what was the fix that you have made, what are the impact areas, and what was the testing strategy. Was this
Mhm.
tested properly or not? Clear?
Okay. Okay.
This kind of documentation will be expected by the customer. This only happens when your product is gone live and it's under operations and maintenance. Clear? Clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, since you have heard of SDLC, what is STLC?
Software testing life cycle.
What is the purpose of STLC? Can anyone say or give a try? Can anyone give a try about STLC?
Software testing life cycle is all about the process that we develop our scripts in order to execute the code, in order to test the application. The process that we do is STLC.
Okay, okay. How about others?
Basically, stepwise process that is followed for testing once the product is developed, and to ensure all the bugs and other things are noted in a systematic way, so that the final product is given to the client as per the agreed terms.
Okay, nice, nice. That's nice of everyone that I have discussed. So basically what happens in STLC? So basically, whenever we receive the application, so obviously we'll receive the application, right? Post development and post unit testing and integration testing, the code will be handed over to the testing team. Yes or no? So once the application is before the application is handed over to us, what happens? A testing team goes to a requirement analysis phase. So we try to understand the requirements from the customers. It's not only the job of a developers to understand the requirements from the customers. It's also the job of the testers to understand the requirements from the from the clients, from the business people. What is the requirements? What are the main activities? We see from a testing perspective. They see from a development perspective the same requirements. Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
So once we have a requirement analysis and requirement understanding, then what we need to do, we have to go for a test planning. So what do you mean by test planning? So based on, suppose you have selected a waterfall methodology. So what happens? The product will be handed over to you completely at once, right? So what happens in that case? You have to plan how many days do we need to test. I mean, it's a not exact planning. There are this planning is bound to have some deviations again. So you need to define like how much time does it take to test this application, and how many resources do we need, how many hours do we need to spend on this, and if any bugs found, what is the estimated time. Like we give some SLAs. For a critical bug, this is SLA. For a high priority bug, this is SLA. For medium bug, this is SLA. Whether the bugs are fixed on time or not. If there are more bugs, then if there are more blockers, then the testing cycle gets delayed. So how do we need to project it? What is the status? How do we need to project it? The daily status, everything comes under test planning. Clear? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
So when it comes to again test case development, we develop the test cases as per the requirements that we have done, as per the modules that the assignment. Then we develop the test cases. By the time we develop the test cases, our test environment will be ready and set up in our set up in a separate environment. Separate, you'll be given a separate application URL or something. So once the test environment is set up, then you have to perform the test execution on the basis of the test cases that you have written here. And also you can do some ad hoc testing or random testing to find more bugs, because sometimes some bugs are not got by test cases. Sometimes you find the bugs randomly. So when you always remember, whenever you find a bug, you should always link a test case to that bug. If you're not linking a test case to that bug, it doesn't hold any authenticity. Suppose if the test case is not there for that bug, then we have to create a test cases accordingly and log a bug against the test case. Clear, everyone?
Yes.
This is this is the main thing that comes under defect reporting. You have seen in our crash course content, there's a concept called as defect reporting, right? So what do you mean by exactly defect reporting? With this bug, how many test cases have been impacted? How many test cases have been affected? And what is the estimated, what is the mitigation plan for it? How much time does it take for the dev team to fix this? Because they have been blocked by so many cases. So these all happens in defect reporting. How many bugs are there? With this, if it's a major functionality critical blocker that is blocking a module, we'll always mention that, okay, so and so bug is blocking us for a lot of time. Yes or no?
Yes.
So that all comes under defect reporting. Once you have logged the defects, there is another call called as defect triage call or a defect discussion call. So what happens there? So what happens there means we discuss all the defects with the business persons as well as with the developers. So based on that, if they feel like developers feel like, okay, it's an issue from our end, they'll fix it. If there is a bug that is challenging the business requirement, then the business analyst and the product owners will come into picture and they will sort out the issue for us. So that all comes under defect reporting, defect triage, defect resolution. This all comes under defect part. And after, if you feel that the build is stable enough or not stable enough, we close the build. There's a test closure report. So in this test closure report, we will specify the health of the build, whether it's good, bad, excellent, or you can approve for a conditional release or a full sign-off release, etc. Clear?
Yes.
So these are
Yes.
the main things behind the STLC. So here, when it comes to test planning, not all the members of the resources will be part of test planning, will be in the development phase of test planning. Mostly the managers and the leads of your testing team will be part of test planning. And I share the test plan with you so that will make you understand what is the required task, what is the required activities to be done by each and every employee. Clear?
Okay.
Because in interview sometimes this question will be asked, are you are you a part of test plan preparation or something like that? So we should always say that sometimes we were part of test plan preparation, all this stuff. Okay. Now this is a briefing about the differences between STLC and SDLC and STLC. So if you can go through this image, what do you understand? Like take a couple of minutes, time like 2 minutes to go through this image to understand what are the different phases that we have, that a code undergoes or a testing team undergoes or a development team undergoes during the product testing or development. So with this, what you have understood about SDLC and STLC, you might be also understanding what teams are involved in some of the phases. What is the this is in detailed plan about the STLC. More details about STLC. Clear? This is what happens in the reality with respect to STLC and SDLC. This is more real picture.
Rahul, what is repository?
What is repository? Okay.
Storage.
Where did you see the word retrospect? This is okay.
The
Test
last.
case
Storage
storage.
in,
Store it in repository means generally what happens, all the test case approvals or test case related activities you need to store it in a particular folder. Yes or no? You need to store them in a
yes,
particular folder. You need to have a shared resources, because sometimes what happens, now we will share the test approval for the day, the detailed test approval. Sometimes what happens, they'll be like, okay, I need the test approval plan that you have approved 1 month back. How did you approve it? This kind of questions will come, right?
yes.
Yes or no? So that is called storing it in a repository, means storing it in the shared folders, storing it in a office servers. Clear?
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
And retrospect meeting.
A retrospect meeting means you have seen the defect tracking, right? Once you see the defect tracking, then you prepare the test execution report and send it to customer. Retrospect means why these defects have come, what were the reasons, and how do you avoid them in the future releases from the development side. Clear?
Okay, okay.
As I have told you, the defect triage calls and defect calls.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Here,
What is traceability matrix?
okay. Traceability matrix means against this requirements, what are the more against this requirements, what are the, I mean, as per the testing that we are doing, is it matching with the requirements or not? Sometimes we do some random testing which doesn't match with the requirements, right? Yes or no?
So it means whatever the test cases we have developed, whether all the test cases is relevant to the client requirements or not, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah, as
matching
per
with client requirements or not.
yeah.
Rahul, in practical scenario for SDLC and STLC, do we need to follow this structure compulsory in all the projects, or
This is
depending
the
on the project?
this is the actual structure that is being followed. No matter what is happening, these are the actual structure that is being followed. Trust me.
Okay,
See, no matter, see, previously I've shown you a condensed STLC methodology. This is the reality that is happening all the time. I mean,
okay,
you will not identify that it is happening. Trust me, it happens so fast. So suppose it's like you will write a test case, your manager approves it, you will ask him to review it, then the test case gets approval, then you have to store it in a repository, because he'll ask you like, okay, for this module you have written the test cases, have approved it, right? And then push it to the server or push it to the shared folder. He'll say, right? Don't you hear this kind of words?
yes, yes,
So this is the reality of STLC. This is what happens in reality. That is why I picked this image, so that you'll understand more of what is happening from STLC. Okay,
yes, Rahul.
cool. Any other doubts?
Nothing. In terms of SDLC for the feasibility study, Rahul, uh, apart from the business analysts, the other team members who are part of it, is it from the product company? Is it from the client company that the HR, finance, all this?
No, from the services or product person who is gonna take the project for development. Like
Okay.
suppose if you're working for company A, your BAs, your architects, your finance team, everyone will be involved. You might be wondering why HR and finance team are coming into picture. The main thing is, suppose if you don't have that right resources for that project, then HR team should scout for you, right?
Correct. Manpower has to be given.
Yeah. And when it comes to finance, obviously when you're working for some project, you obviously expect some profits, right? Yes or no?
Correct. Obviously.
Sorry. Most of the people just don't understand the ground reality of why HR and finance team. But I understand. That is why I thought of telling you these things.
But
They
what
are
is
also
this time resource?
time cost, time spent per resource. Like suppose what happens means you are allocated 8 hours per day. Suppose if you work 2 hours extra, then you'll be paid extra 2 hours, right? For the work that you have done in a service-based company.
Correct.
Every hour is billable, right, for you.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main reason. How much time are we spending? How many hours have we spent? These are also comes under picture. Okay.
So are you saying there are particular people who get paid on the number of hours they work, or is like
No,
the
no,
or
no. If you spend
for the
more than
calculation of the number of hours being done for the project?
if you spend more hours, see, if you are working for 8 hours a day, no charge, no extra charges, nothing. As per your pay, you will take it. But if you're spending more than 8 hours, and as per the client requirement, that time you will be paid extra, not all the time. Or if you're
Correct.
working on
What I'm asking is time resource which is there, that is basically to calculate all these things as a tool which is used, the extra time that is done, or is it
complete
that
time,
there are
complete. I mean, they'll be having a comparison, right? What is the expected number of hours? What is the actual number of hours? If it is going way more than expect, way more than actual, what is the issue? Where are we lacking? If it is going way less than the actual, then no one will start questioning you.
correct?
See,
Okay.
you are a fast learner, you are a fast person, you will finish it fastly. Whereas your other team members are slow. Then that is also a loss for the project, right? They see as an overall basis.
Correct. No, my understanding is time resource is basically to calculate the number of hours spent for the project. That's all, right?
Yes.
Nothing to do with an individual employee working for any number of hours. So overall
Yes.
for the project calculation, right?
Mm.
Okay.
This will be done by the architects, finance, HR team. They will take care of it. You will not even know what is happening there unless and until you are very good friends with your service delivery manager. You'll get to know this.
Yeah. So what is this low level design components and
Yesterday we have discussed in B model design methodology, right? High level design means on a high level on a brief you'll get to know what is the design of your product. Low level design means you'll get to know the detailed components or more details about how the component should be built, how the application should be coming, right? Yes or no?
yeah. Okay.
High level design and detailed level design. Yesterday we have discussed this terminology.
Yes.
Okay, clear? Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So any doubts anywhere? Any requirements? Hope you got a better understanding of what is happening internally.
Yes, Rahul.
Because actually I was part when I worked in the client location, I was part of lot of service delivery activities. So that is why I'm able to explain you more clearly how they make the calculations and metrics. In fact, I've seen their Excel. By seeing their Excel, I was only shocked. Okay, the whole team is working for these many hours and we are not delivering nothing. Sometimes it happens. And I had the privilege to work with the finance team of both from our company and from the customer side where we see the finances. Like suppose if we're traveling on site, we are supposed to stay there. So all those charges are borne by the customer only. So with these things also come into picture. Though I sound bit childish or bit like a small kid, but these things also matter when a client is sending a project for you. Clear? Giving a project to you.
Yeah, all this is
Yes.
involved.
Even the team parties that you have come from the client only sometimes. So all these things happen from the customer end and all this stuff. So this is more of SDLC, how the process happens, all the stuff. Good enough. Very much good enough. Now let's see the basic image. So with this help of this image, what can you understand? What is happening here?
So after development completed, the build will release it for the testing. Unless a smoke test means I think basic testing. If certain parameters if satisfied, then the build got passed. Otherwise, we will send back to the rebuild that one. Whatever the defects we are encounter during the smoke test.
Okay.
So we are rejecting the build to deploy into the production environment.
Rejecting. Okay.
Means rejecting means whatever the parameters we are encounter, so we need to report to the development team to fix those issues. After that, again we retest again.
Okay. How about others?
As
How
again,
about others?
once the product is or the development team does the product, whatever based on the requirement, sent for testing. Whatever gets through with the testing moves to the next level, and whatever is rejected or the bugs being identified is referred back to the development team.
Okay. So continuing with the views given by Kumar and Sridevi. So what is happening actually is when you are using the concept called as initial build, when a build is given to the testing team or a build is deployed, we do a smoke test. So basically, what do you mean by smoke testing? Smoke testing is something. 1 minute. Let me go to the other slide. Smoke testing. So what is the purpose of smoke testing? Have you seen in the previous image, right, there's a smoke testing happening once the build is deployed? So basically, what is the goal of smoke testing? What is the purpose of smoke testing? To detect any early defects in the software product, to assure that the functionalities of the program are working fine, to measure the stability of the product, to test the overall functionality of the product. Clear? The purpose of smoke? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
So by doing the smoke testing, we are not ensuring that there won't be any more bugs. We are just checking the overall functionality and overall stability of our application. So this is the main thing behind smoke testing. Just to find any major blockers are there, to find any bugs are found. Most probably the overall we'll be checking the critical areas of the application most of the time. Okay. Which, and in the smoke testing, we also check that any major financial impacts are there, like all the financial part of the application is working fine or not majorly. That is what happens in most of the smoke testing. Because if some of the other non-financial functionalities, if they are if it were not working properly, we can request for some time and we can fix it. If the financial related modules are not working properly, then it's a very big issue. Then you'll be getting nice alarms from customers or nice alarms from your own peers that is not working, what is happening, what to do. Okay, clear?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Basically, this is like overall overview of the product being tested, not into the nitty-gritties of every
yes,
step, right?
yeah, overall
Yeah.
testing of the product.
UAT testing comes after this testing, right?
Smoke testing happens even in the internal as well as in the external. UAT users don't even do smoke testing, trust me. They'll directly jump into the
Okay.
test case. UAT
Okay.
testing is not even a part of it, not even a member of it. People will take care. There are separate team to take care of it.
Correct. So after
You
smoke testing, we are sending the product to them. Then after they will do the UAT testing, right?
Yeah. Sometimes we might
you
not do smoke testing also. It's not all the time we do the smoke testing in UAT environment. Remember that. We
Okay.
can do smoke testing
Okay.
in our local environments before sharing the bill to higher releases.
Okay.
Mm.
So your UAT testing is basically done from the client side, right? After the
Yes.
product is finished,
Yes.
not by. I mean, though we do the product testing at our end from the product team, it's basically tested by the client whether everything is working as per their requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. Client will deploy some users to check whether it's working properly or not.
That's a final product which they receive, and the look and feel that they get. That's what they check and how it works, how the
Yeah.
functioning is
Good work.
working.
If they are satisfied, then it will go for live.
Correct. Okay.
So nowhere.
so
Yeah. Please, Ravali, go ahead.
yeah, this smoke testing, like whenever we write test cases or whenever we plan test cases, do we write like these functionalities come under smoke test, these functionalities come under,
Yeah.
different tests? Do we write over there? Like
Yeah.
in which phase?
During the test planning phase, see, you know that what kind of modules you'll be receiving, right? As per the requirement analysis, you'll get to know what are the modules that you'll be testing, right? Yes or no? You'll be receiving
Yes.
the key functionality. So by default, what will happen? You have to write the smoke suit for this release. Like suppose if you are getting module A and module B for the release, so you need to write a smoke cases that covers the overall functionality of the module that is being released. So you need the same functionality works for subsequent builds. Okay. Overall
Okay.
product, overall testing. The smoke suit doesn't build in a single build or a two builds. It will take some time to build a stabilized smoke suit. It will not build that quickly. Okay.
Okay. So, Rahul, who is going to decide like these functionalities come under? Like, is it the whole testing team or is it only the lead and a
Whole
few
team
people?
sits together in an idealistic world. Whole team will sit together and do it. In a non-idealistic world, my lead will decide this is a smoke or something like that.
Okay, okay, thank you.
So Kumar, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, a smoke test means we need to cross check all the functionality, right? Whatever the functionality we have developed in that build, as
Yeah.
part of that build, we need to check all the functionality, right?
All the functionalities that is given as part of the build, and if the application is like build, if the development is running for the past 6 months, you have to cover the modules that are not given for the build also, because if there are 10 modules, 8 modules are stabilized. They'll give the bill for 2 modules, right? So it's not only your job to do the smoke test for 2 modules. You have to do the smoke test for all the 10 modules on an overall basis. Clear?
Okay.
Right, that is why I told you, right? Overall functionality of the software product. The word says that only.
Correct.
So you should always remember one thing: the smoke testing will be always done by the manual team. But in the current era, or in the new generation of IT that we are working on, the smoke test will be done by automation team also. The test automation team will play a very big role when it comes to smoke testing, because for each and every bill, will you sit in front of system and do the smoke testing? Yes or no?
Yes, we have to
Yeah,
do.
Sorry, Sridevi, go ahead.
Yes, we have to do is what I'm saying.
We have to do manually, you say. Like suppose if you get a late night release, then you have to wake up in the late night and do the smoke testing.
No, I'm saying we have to test every segment of what we have decided to do
Yeah.
the testing. And now it is
So
automated. Automation testing is faster, so
yeah.
it's
So
easier to do.
automation always comes into picture. The first rule of automation comes into picture when we are having a smoke test suite built. Because manual team will sit for will love to do smoke testing for 5 to 6 times. Afterwards, they'll be fed up or vexed up with their lives. Why do I need to do the same set of activity? So that time automation comes into picture, and they will start executing the suit and giving you the results as per the KT given to the automation team. Clear, Sridevi? You are having some doubt?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, see, there are so many testing processes, right? Like manual or automation and other testing processes. Is it decided that a particular testing process needs to be followed for a particular project? Like we have to do manual only, we have to do automation only, we have to do performance testing only, like that.
No,
Is
no,
there
no,
a
no. No,
or
the current era of testers requires you to be, if you're a mix of everything, that the current testing team or the current testing era expects you to be the mix of everything, not a specific genre, not a batsman or not a particular bowler or not particular fielder. It expects you to be all-rounder. The current industry, the current nuances of testing industry.
obviously that upgradation needs to be done by anybody in the software industry, but what I'm saying, my understanding is there any specific, like you said, manual testing cannot be done by a smoke, I mean for the smoke testing, because one, you said after 4 5 times we get vexed up of doing the same thing. And I also feel that automation helps us to do it faster also, so number of times we test also can be increased through automation. That's my
Yes,
understanding,
yes,
right?
yes.
So similarly, are there any specific things or specific reasons that we should do only manual testing for this particular thing? We should do automation only for smoke testing. We should do performance testing.
See,
Is
I'll
there
tell
any?
you, if there are some repetitive activities, you shift it to automation testing. If there is some new functionality, that a new module that is being deployed, and there is some new functionality that is being deployed, at that time manual team will do the smoke test. They will see everything is working fine or not. Then they shift it to automation team. Clear?
Clear. What about the rest of them? I mean, other testing tools or other
See,
testing
basically,
process?
once the automation team comes into picture, we have to cover the modules which are not covered by automation team. That is for sure. The role of a manual tester.
So my understanding is for every testing, first manual testing has to be done, and then
Manual
uh,
testing or not? No, 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 no.
no?
I'll tell you,
Okay.
if the complete smoke suit is done by automation team, then you need not involve. If the complete smoke suit is not built, only few of the smoke cases are built, then manual and automation team have to sit in hand and finish the smoke test.
Okay. Okay. That's what I was not clear. So if the complete process is followed for smoke testing by automation team, then manual testing team need not do it even for 1 or 2 times that they generally do, right? But if
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are any,
Generally, I mean, monthly once you have to do. That is for sure. Like automation team, even though it does, at least monthly once, manual team has to look around how the smoke cases are working or not properly, so that we can give more ideas to automation team. Right?
okay.
Okay, your life will be relaxed when you have automation in picture. Your life will be bindas. The only thing is no insecure feelings when automation comes into picture. Always understand how do you increase the scope of your testing. How do you increase the testing scope? How can you test your boundary value analysis testing? What do you mean by boundary value analysis testing? Suppose you push your application to the limit. What is happening? Like suppose
Yeah. X number of users, can they
Hmm,
handle it? Or will the system accept or will not be
hmm,
able to work? Things like that.
yeah, yeah. You can do a sort of load testing. This is also called as load testing and boundary testing. Suppose application is bound to handle only 10 users. Suppose if you are adding 11th user, then the application ideally should break. We'll check whether it's breaking or not. That's called as a boundary value analysis testing. Clear? Clear, everyone?
Yes. Yes.
So whenever you're having manual knowledge is not sufficient within the market as of now. Hope everyone understands. Hope everyone can see the JDs or the job opportunities that you have in the market. Automation knowledge is turning out to be a mandatory for every tester who are moving out slowly or now.
Yes.
Hmm.
So once we know manual and automation only, we can upgrade to the rest of them, is it?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
So, what are the advantages of smoke? It's easy to perform, identify defects in early stages, improves the quality of the system, reduces the risk of failure. It makes progress easier to access, saves time and effort, makes it easy for us to detect critical errors and helps in correction of errors, minimizes integration risks. So hope all these points are clear.
Yes.
Any other doubts, anyone?
We can proceed.
What are the disadvantages of smoke? You should always remember that it does not cover the complete functionality of the application. Only a certain part of testing is done. Errors may occur after performing the smoke test. Have you read this point? In case of manual smoke testing, in case a lot of time to execute the testing process for larger projects. Clear? Clear?
Yes.
So that is understanding this reason, the automation has come into picture. It will not be implemented against the negative testing or invalid input. So generally smoke will cover a lot of positive scenarios than negative scenarios. But in the current era of testing, there's a talk running that please try to include more negative test cases in smoke tests so that our regression testing time reduces. Clear? Clear, everyone?
Rahul, can you please explain what is this negative tests and invalid inputs?
Negative testing means invalid login. You obviously write a case that login is working properly or not. In negative testing means you give an invalid username and valid password. If the application is being logged in, that's an issue, right?
Right.
You don't try to cover all this in a smoke test, right? You can cover this in a regression suite. What do you mean by regression suite? Means, as Sridevi said prior, that we do in-depth testing of each and every module and each and every corner of the functionality. Clear?
Correct. So here we are saying invalid input. If somebody is putting in a wrong username and a correct password, or right password, right username with a incorrect password, then
Yeah.
it will not log in. I mean, it will not allow you to log in. So those
Yeah.
things are not tested in the smoke test, is what we are saying.
Yeah, generally we don't do that kind of negative testing in smoke.
But that is the beginning of any module or any product that is built in, no? But still it is not considered for
Right.
testing.
It's the beginning of any product that is built in. True, accepted. But when you're doing a smoke test, do you think you will do that kind of deep testing? That kind of deep testing you will try to
I
do?
am not talking about the depth of the product. I mean, as we discussed, every manual, I mean, broadly saying, say example, there are 10 heads or 10 manuals in a particular product. We check the functionality of the 10 things that have been prepared for that product. But we don't get into the deeper part of it as to if everything under that module is working. But login itself is the basic manual for
Just
any
giving you an example here. Just given the login as your test case, login as your scenario. In that, I only put the positive scenario as part of the smoke and negative scenario. I cover them in regression. I don't do the negative testing of login, right? My login is my functionality here. Okay.
Okay.
I just given you
But
an example.
because if that is not tested, the entire product is of, I mean, it'll be back to square one, right? If it is tested
Yeah,
at the regression.
that comes under regression. That comes under regression. Never ever you can put the negative login scenarios under smoke. Trust me.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it'll take at a later stage it is identified instead of identifying at the beginning, right?
That is why in smoke we also do some ad hoc testing.
Okay.
Ad hoc testing will happen.
Okay. Ad hoc testing of negative tests. I mean, negative input, you're saying.
Ad hoc testing means randomly you'll find some defects in smoke. You'll be like, okay, this is working fine. Let me do something different. I have some time, right? Let me do something different, and you'll test it differently and push it to smoke issue. Sometimes it happens. I've been a part of those situations.
So it is an individual decision. Like right now, if Rahul thinks that I have to do it something different, then he will do. But Sridevi thinks, I mean, Sridevi doesn't know, because being a new person, I may not think so differently
Yeah,
and do it like that.
that is
So
yeah. That is
maybe
why we have a concept called as regression. That is why the regression comes into picture, where we have in-depth, detailed.
I get that we are doing in depth, but only point is, instead of identifying the bug at the beginning, we are doing it at a later stage, which is a waste
That's
of
it.
time. Yeah.
Can't
Okay.
help. Can't help.
Yeah. Okay.
See, if the bug is found within our team, that is really great. If the bug is found by the customer, that time-taking process is more than this.
I understand. Thank you.
So usually it consists a minimum number of test cases. So hence we cannot find other issues happening during the testing process. Clear?
Okay.
Clear, everyone? So clear, everyone, with all these things, the smoke testing.
Yes.
And we have also discussed about regression testing. Like regression setting is the superset of all. It's above all. Regression testing is above all testings. If you are unable to find any kind of bug in regression testing, then you have to have a keen evaluation of what are the test cases you have written. Clear? Clear,
What did you
everyone?
say? If you don't find any bug in
If you don't
regression?
find any bugs during your regression testing, you should have to assume that either your product is stable or you have to evaluate your test cases again.
Oh, okay.
And there is also called as ad hoc testing. I've been discussing the word ad hoc testing. This is also kind of a different testing where we don't follow any test cases, or we don't follow any strategies, or we don't follow any document. Just like how many people watch cricket? Simply, Hardik Pandya comes, he smashes the ball all around the ball, or he gets out for the first ball. Got it? You do some random testing. You do whatever you want. You break the application in whatever way you want. Clear?
Okay.
And there is another testing called as sanity testing. Sanity testing means what? Sanity testing happens, suppose if there are some 10 bugs that is being released to the next build. So what do we do in sanity testing? We generally see whether the bugs are being deployed properly or not, whether whether the functionality is working properly or not without affecting the core logic. Those all things happen under sanity check. Clear? Clear, everyone?
I mean, that means once the testing is done and the bugs are identified and fixed, then we do the sanity testing.
Yeah, just because when the fixes when there are some patches applied, when the bugs or fixes are applied, there is no guarantee that application will work properly all the time, right? Correct. So in order to check that, we do a round of sanity testing before jumping into smoke test.
Okay.
Correct?
Okay.
So another type of testing is the localization testing. What do you mean by localization testing? Means basically what happens, suppose you have an application that should be used by the people who are in Spain. So the application should be tested in Spanish language, right? In the Spain environment, right? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is called as more of a localization testing. However, if the client is from a customer is from Spain and is specifically mentioning that, okay, in Spain only it should work ideally and it should be mostly in Spanish. So it should work according to the Spanish time zones or according to the Spanish terminologies or Spanish business rules. Then we have to ensure the application is working accordingly or not. Yes or no? That is called localization testing. More of a business rule perspective, and more of we are ensuring that the application is only working within the Spanish regions only. I mean Spain. If you are trying to access from France, it should not work. Clear?
Yes.
Clear, everyone? So another thing is that the last type of testing that we're going to discuss today, globalization testing. So what do you mean by globalization testing? Means no matter wherever you access the application behavior should remains the same, no matter whatever time zone it is, whatever the context of the language is, no matter whatever it is. Clear? Is this clear, everyone?
Yes.
So any doubts, anything so far? Any doubts, anything?
No.
So can we regroup tomorrow for more discussions? We'll discuss tomorrow more on agile methodologies, black box, white box testing, and other testing methodologies. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.